Welcome to the fourth presentation of the Back to Basics series. Today's topic is providing referrals, and this is going to be the most stimulating and fascinating one you've heard so far. Next slide. I'm Flo Henkin, a volunteer with the Client Care Program Workforce Support Team. Also presenting today is Allison Weibel, the manager of the Client Care Program Workforce Support Team at National Headquarters. Supporting us today is Dan Lavalette, who will be monitoring the Q&A box. And I think I saw Jamie and Leonard behind the curtain there. So let's talk a little about housekeeping. This slide will be familiar to you if you have attended any of the first three Back to Basics. This is a 90-minute Microsoft Live Teams meeting. The first hour will be mostly presentation, and the last 30 minutes will be open for question and answers. All lines are muted, but you can type your questions in the Q&A box along with your name and region. We will be recording the meeting and posting to the office hours page. Your turn, Allison.
Thanks, Flo. It takes me a second usually to find my mute button. So again, welcome. Flo did a great job. And yes, this is our fourth session, and I have no doubt that this will be the most stimulating session that we've had, with Flo leading the way. But quick rundown of our agenda. We've got our welcome, a reminder if you've joined any of our sessions. I think this will be a constant reminder of what our Back to Basics series is. And why we're doing it. And then we'll dive into the referrals, the meat of this presentation, talk about a couple of next steps, and then open it up for Q&A. So as Flo mentioned, if you do have a question, please go ahead and put it in your chat, in our chat with your name and region, just so we know who we are talking to. Okay, back to basics, my slides. So I will try to run through this as quick as possible. Sorry if you've heard it before. But what is the Back to Basics series? We designed this series to essentially go back to those early days of client care. At the time when we started a year and a half ago, we spent so much time, so much focus on our system, and rightfully so. We needed you all to know how to do what we do and how the system worked. What that meant, though, was that our trainings and communications and doctrine, everything was dedicated to the system use. And unfortunately, that meant that we had to sacrifice the fundamentals of the client care program. So we're taking the opportunity now to go back, and we will be running these sessions every 2 weeks. So again, this is our fourth session. We do have the previous sessions up on our Exchange page, the RC Care office hours. So if you want to go back and listen to the recording of disaster assessment or intake, please feel free. There'll be a link later in the slides for you to get any of the recordings or the previous presentations. So again, running these every roughly 2 weeks with topics that go back to the foundations and principles of the client care program. We've talked about intake, we've talked about disaster assessment. This one is about referrals. So there's some more coming up in the months to focus on some casework, our support functions from document review to the case administrator roles, talk about the user roles, how to get help, and so much more. We also understand we have built this plan with flexibility and fluctuation in mind, because we know that disasters are not predictable, and neither are the priorities that come our way. So we will announce our sessions usually about a week and a half in advance, just to allow for some of that flexibility and shift. We do plan to run these series through the end of the calendar year. So hope you are here for the long haul. All right, so why are we doing Back to Basics now? Well, we continue to operate in this flexible, agile environment where we are implementing all of many things. When we implement what we implement, and then we learn from what we've implemented, and then we go back and we make changes. This includes things that we identify that maybe aren't working properly, or some nuances that appear, or other elements to account for these enhancements. And they're occurring about every 3 weeks. And we send out those, we got a couple of emails that go out, our weekly reminders or about what's going on and what we are seeing in the system. And then I know when we do a release, we send out a release update email. So trying to keep you all in the know. We know that our doctrine is out of date. It doesn't match the functionality of the system or the program. Program has changed, and we just haven't had the time to update it. We also know that we're in this limbo area of a pause or stop on any necessary doctrine. So there's a lag in information. So again, taking the time now, the opportunity now to go back to the basics, share what we have learned, which has been a ton since the launch, and give you the most up-to-date information. We continue to evolve as we review the feedback, and we've mentioned here where we are looking at lessons learned. We are looking at all the feedback that comes in via the rollout inbox or the IT service desk, other avenues of sharing information, and wanted to take a quick second just to say thank you. You all have helped us grow and perfect this program and the system, and we really appreciate it. It takes a village to do a lot of this, so thank you. All right. There is one, well, we're working on many things, but one exciting project that just want to bring everybody up to speed on. We're, again, exciting that we're working on some of this, but trying to get some more information to you in a more efficient manner and in a location that is a little easier to get to. So if you've heard of the knowledge base articles in RC Care, we are working on a big project to update those and essentially take our system pieces out of our job tools and put them into these knowledge base articles, so that if you're working in RC Care and you have a question about how to replace a CAC, you can just pull up this knowledge base article, right? And you don't have to go to the exchange. You don't have to go anywhere else. You can just pull up another tab and read this knowledge base article and follow the steps to get those steps going and completed. So trying to get that done relatively quickly, but with some thought behind it, because there is some more coming with the knowledge-based articles and a help center or support center, just trying to make things a little easier for everybody out in the field. Having the knowledge-based articles allows us to quickly share any changes to the system or procedure. So we are leveraging that in this time where DCS is trying to evaluate our training and doctrine and what our path forward is. So we are super excited about those efforts. And again, that's another reason why we wanted to take the opportunity to do the back to basics. We've got a lot going on, and this is the first opportunity for us to kind of take a reset since we've launched the program and the system. Gosh, a year and a half ago, it feels like yesterday sometimes, but just want to make sure that you all have the latest and greatest information. So that is why we are doing the Back to Basics series. With all of that, Flo, I am happy to hand it back to you.
Okie dokie. So the client care program providing referrals, that was the title of the training and the knowledge article that we had when we rolled out RC Care. And I forgot to put this in the presentation, but I just remembered, we will not, we're taking out that providing referrals training. So that will be one less thing, one less training that everybody needs to do. And the same goes for the job tool. The job tool is at least temporarily going to live in the knowledge articles, but I think its eventual home, and of course we'll see if that happens, but the eventual home will be within the recovery planning job tool and training. I think that's probably where this belongs. But anyway, there were two things we wanted to accomplish last month with the RC Care update. We wanted to rebrand our resource system, our resource directory, and create an easier process for caseworkers to provide referrals. As you're probably aware, our vendor, Aunt Bertha, decided to rebrand themselves to Find Help. Oh, you can go on. There you go. So that meant that we had to change every mention of Aunt Bertha in trainings, doctrine, and RC Care. Meanwhile, caseworkers had been complaining about the clumsy way they were expected to provide referrals. Let's face it, the referral system in RC Care was built as a temporary workaround. Some caseworkers simply weren't documenting referrals, so an improvement was needed. And I hope this is it, because we had to wait our turn for the RC Care update anyway. We decided to make the most of it by doing the rebranding and the simplifying at the same time. So say goodbye to Aunt Bertha. It's just as well, because what was beginning to happen is that clients were being told to go to Aunt Bertha or go to Find Help. And that was perfectly understandable, because our old URL was redcrossdisasterresources.auntbertha.com. So say that 20 times. If you were on a DAT call, or if you were a client, a call center agent, it wasn't cutting it. So next slide. Now we can say hello to the Red Cross resource directory. And the directory can be accessed through resources.redcross.org. That's our vanity URL or vanity domain. Now we have a URL that's easy to say and easy to type. The new URL, talk about tongue twisters, the new URL totally masks redcrossdisasterresources.findhelp.com. You will see the new URL in the address bar and in the program links, and anyone who types in redcrossdisasterresources.findhelp.com or uses an old link will be redirected to resources.redcross.org. So we would like to request that auntbertha.com and redcross.org no longer be given out. And instead, clients should be given referrals from the Red Cross resource directory. And doing spot checks in RC Care, I think most everybody has caught on to this, so good job. But please check your templates to make sure they're updated with the new name and the new URL. There's several reasons this is important. One, there may be more resources at resources.redcross.org that are not available at findhelp.org. Second, we may have a folder specific for the DRO if the client is affected by a DRO in the Red Cross resource directory. Also, we want to track the number of visitors to the site, what they're searching for, and whether or not they found what they're looking for. That is going to help us improve the site. Finally, the Red Cross brand gives clients confidence, and that's something that we want them to have. Okay, you can move on to the next slide. The Back to Basics series is a good opportunity to step away from RC Care and talk about what referrals are and why we provide them to our clients. And Allison, as you were talking, I was thinking, I actually have gone back before the client care program. My interpretation of Back to Basics is like 10 years. So anyway, where was I? So for starters, what is a referral? A referral is a recommendation to an internal Red Cross service, a community partner, or government agency requesting assistance on behalf of the client. They're linked to roadblocks that are preventing the client from moving forward in their recovery. Referrals are intended to help the client overcome roadblocks. The service we provide to our clients is customized. Therefore, you can't give the same list to every client. If you give your clients a list, it should be short and it should be customized for your client. It's not one size fits all. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, sorry. After all, clients all have different needs. And ideally, a referral is a resource that the caseworker has researched and provides specifically for their client's needs. Okay, next slide. Client care services are intended to help individuals and families bridge the gap between the resources they can access on their own and what they need to move through the recovery process. Financial assistance is one way to accomplish this, and referrals are another. So why do we provide referrals? The big reason, which we've discussed, is to overcome roadblocks to recovery. Referrals allow clients to return to or stay in their home. They help stretch the client's dollar. And note, that's not the donor's dollar. In this case, it's the client's dollar, because we give them a very little amount for immediate assistance. And if we can, any referral that we give them helps them put that money to another use. They can reconnect the client with their community and help the client navigate the social service network. Referrals help clients cope with disaster-caused need and document the need for supplemental assistance. Consider that sometimes referrals we give to our clients actually last longer and accomplish more than the financial assistance, which may only last a few days. Next slide. This is not really a back to basics. This is more forward thinking to when mission adaptation gets underway. Referrals will be an important component, I think. Referrals can help prevent post-disaster homelessness. They can shorten the time a client is displaced following a disaster, stabilize the adverse effects of poverty on recovery, and help build resiliency to cope against future loss. We can revisit this thought another time, just thought I'd throw it out there. And next slide, please. As you know, internal referrals are referrals to other Red Cross services. Currently in RC Care, we can create referrals for disaster health services, disaster mental health, disaster spiritual care, and integrated care condolence team. The immediate health, mental health, or spiritual needs are usually need to be addressed right away before the client can begin their recovery. Internal referrals can be made in RC Care during intake, but at almost any time in the casework process, they can be provided by caseworkers or individual disaster care workers. Okay, next we are going to talk about the external referral process. So let's dive a little deeper into external referrals. Moving along, consider that within the external referral process, there are two intertwined tracks of providing referrals that caseworkers need to balance. On the one hand are the communications or interactions you have with your client. On the other side is the documentation in RC Care. Let's take a quick look at both. We'll talk a little about client interactions, and then I'll show you how the knowledge articles are organized so you can get step-by-step help from RC Care when you need it. Okay, next slide. I think of client touch points as the process without RC Care. So just the talking part. Whether you are a recovery caseworker, an IDC provider, let me back up. The talking part and the thinking part. That's what this process is about. So whether you're a recovery caseworker, an IDC provider, an SRT caseworker, or even a service to armed forces caseworker, the process is going to be similar. During the first touch point, you will develop a rapport and let the client tell their story. Ask open-ended questions and walk them through their options. Don't forget to use your active listening techniques. Next, gather demographics. Don't skip this important step in the conversation. I know it's optional for recovery planning, but for referrals, it really isn't. The more you know about the client, the better prepared you will be to provide appropriate referrals. A lot of programs have income eligibility requirements, so that's an important demographic. Military status is important because there are lots of programs for active military and veterans. Now, encourage the client to develop a recovery plan. Remember that they're in charge of their recovery, so you're not telling them, you're guiding them. I know I'm not staying in my lane, but it's almost impossible to talk about providing referrals without getting into recovery planning. As you talk, identify your client's roadblocks. Then you can start looking for referrals to overcome the roadblocks. There's a lot going on this slide between number 4 and number 5. Or there's a lot going on that's not on this slide. In addition to the client touch points, you're going to document roadblocks, search the resource directory, and as a best practice, we recommend that you call someone at the program or agency that you have selected to confirm eligibility requirements and availability. This will also help build your relationship with the agency. And we don't want to send the client on a wild goose chase if they don't qualify for the program. Finally, or next, discuss possible referrals with the client. That's not just emailing them a list, that's giving them a call to let them know what you found. Before closing the case, then, is the final touch point where you want to get back with the client and ask how the referrals worked. That's going to give you some good information on using those referrals in the future and also whether or not your client is going to need more referrals. Okay, next slide. So we're not going to go into how to document because that's covered in the knowledge articles, but why is documentation important? It's what caseworkers do since the beginning of time. So that's not a reason. That's all I could think of. But one of the reasons is that another caseworker may be asked to call your client and need to know where to pick up the conversation with the client. Your supervisor may want to review the case. Also, documenting makes it possible to create reports, and from reports, we can get a lot of useful information. Finally, we document referrals to justify providing supplemental assistance. Okay, so we're getting towards the end here. So if you have any questions, type them in. You can start typing them in now. Next slide. Thank you. You already went there. I kind of think of these knowledge articles as a choose your own adventure book. So that's why I laid it out this way. Everyone begins with the overview of the client care program providing referrals. Referrals can be provided in RC Care through 3 services: shelter resident transition, recovery planning, and individual disaster care. After completing the overview, users will proceed to the appropriate knowledge article to walk through the process. The advantage of doing that is that if you are an IDC provider, you don't have to wade through a lot of the material that doesn't apply to you. You just go straight to IDC. So I hope this will work. It's kind of an experiment. And if it doesn't work, well, we'll redo it. It's much easier to redo than it is to redo a job pool. So there's two ways to find knowledge articles in RC Care. You can type the name of the article in the search bar, but the easiest way that I have found is to type, if you type providing referrals in the search bar, you'll get a list of all the providing referrals, of everything in the providing referrals topic and their links. So that's the method I recommend for finding these knowledge articles. Okay, next slide. References. So these hyperlinks I checked when we put them in the Exchange will be clickable. So the knowledge articles link is a link to the knowledge article topic that I was just telling you about. But it's easier just to type recovery planning in the search bar than to go try and find this link. But there it is if you need it. And then if you need to find the videos, that the 6-minute or 7-minute videos that Jamie sent to you last month, there they are. So for some of you, those may be more helpful than the knowledge articles. That's let's see, what time is it? Oh, I was pretty quick. But that's really all I have to say. I'm ready to answer questions.
All right. Well, let's go ahead, Allison.
Nope, I think there's just a couple more. Let me get through the next couple of slides here, and then Flo, you can take a drink of water, get your voice ready.
Sorry, Allison, I forgot you.
That's all good. It's all good. So just really wanted to cover real quick what's kind of coming up next. Anyway, next steps. We are planning our next session, and that next session is planned for July 28th. It's a Thursday, same day of the week, same time, 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. We will announce that session late next week, so you'll know what the topic is, and you can expect some blasts from Yammer or the update emails that get sent out directly through your recovery leads and other channels. We try and get we try to hit as many user support channels as we can with this information. Some of the potential upcoming topics for the 28th session and looking into August could be around payment options, maybe some follow-up and recovery services, and then we have a how to get help. So talking through some escalations and supervisors, how to get some help here. Access to the office hour sessions, as mentioned before, and a couple of times, the links to join the sessions can be found on the RC Care Toolkit underneath the RC Care office hours page. This also houses any of our past sessions. So our disaster assessment and our intake session are currently up. You can watch the recording of the session, and you also have access to the slides that were presented. Same goes for this presentation. In the coming days, you will be able to access the recording and the presentation and the slide deck for this session. So with that, we will return to the lovely, previously known as Aunt Bertha, for you, Flo, and some questions.
I love this slide. This is a fantastic image. I just want to go on the record and say
I fell in love with her.
So that's what Aunt Bertha looks like. Okay.
Yeah, that's the real Aunt Bertha. She's very sad, you can tell.
All right, just real quick, I just want to review a few things that we had published that folks had sent in the Q&A. So somebody had asked, Steve from Central Ohio asked if this video is for sharing. So I just wanted to real quickly cover, as we said in the beginning, we are recording the call. We're going to post this up to the office hours page on the Exchange in the RC Care Toolkit. So that's where you'll find it along with our other recorded sessions. And then Carol asked, did I understand that the Edge class CCP providing referrals is no longer required? And I answered and said that is correct. And just for everybody's awareness, there might still be some references out there to the training. We're working to remove it from position descriptions and curricula. So that is the latest and greatest, but if you see it, that's why you still see it. So going back, Flo, we've got a few questions in the queue here, and I'll just start with the top one from Lucinda in the California, not Carolina, South California region. Lucinda asked, with regular email we send, we can request that the system informs us that the person has received or read the email. Is there a way to receive notice that the client received or read an email sent through RC Care? I don't think there is, but Flo, do you know, or Jamie?
I don't. And I think whether you get a notice depends on the type of email that you're using.
Agreed.
Yeah, we don't.
Do you know, Jamie?
We do not have that functionality currently in RC Care.
Cool. Thank you. I didn't think so. Just wanted to check. All right, next question. Lori asked, it's very difficult developing a rapport and collecting this information in a preferred contact type of email or text. What is the current thinking on how best to do this with these communication types? Any thoughts on building rapport over text or email?
Well, nothing earth-shattering, but I have read some great rapport between caseworker and clients in RC Care, where they've really gotten to know each other, and you know, as long as they're both there going back and forth, it is a conversation. I think it's when you email and they don't get it, or the next day you get a response, you know, then I agree with you, it's hard. Maybe it's just a skill we have to develop.
Thank you, Flo.
Any other thoughts?
I'm just going to say, I think this will probably come up again on the when we do the casework and recovery planning discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Definitely something we deal with. All right.
And it's age. Younger people feel more comfortable, and they're always texting. So we may have to accommodate them or get younger people to do this.
It's a good point, Flo, and I think it's the same maybe on phone calls versus text with different age groups. I know there's a preference sometimes with younger folks. They like to do an online thing or a text message exchange, you know, an email exchange or text message versus a phone call in some cases. So yeah, that's a good point too. Sometimes it changes with age for us too. All right. Julianne asked, what if you find out that the referral needs to be updated? Who do we contact so it can be changed online? And I assume Julianne is meaning in the RC resources database.
Yes, so there is something called, when you're in the database, there's something called a program card. And at the bottom of the card is a button that says suggest. So if you find that an address is wrong or the hours are wrong, you click that button and then you just tell the folks behind the curtain what needs to be corrected.
Awesome.
I'm trying to think if I have a picture of that. I think I do. Let's see. Well, I'm not sure which one it is. But after you, if you go into the resource directory and you do a search, then the program cards come up after the search. And at the bottom of the card is a button that says suggest.
Awesome. Thank you, Flo.
Mhm.
Might be a good candidate for a future knowledge article. I don't know.
It is a knowledge article. You
Perfect.
just need to go look at the list.
There we go. There we go. All right. Perfect. Okay, so we got a question from Anonymous. Is it now possible to text referrals to a client directly from RC Care?
Okay, now that I do have, if you, Allison, can you go to slide 30? There's the instructions. The most important thing about this, well, there's two important things about this. It's a workaround. So SMS does not accommodate hyperlinks. So you're no worse off than you were before. In fact, you may be a little better off, but it's still a workaround. You're going to have to cut and paste each link into the SMS one at a time. And you may find this different, but I found that it will easily, a note to the client, and then there's easily room for 3 referrals. So that, and I understand, I've heard that, well, everyone wants their referrals sent by text. So I'm not sure if that's an exaggeration or not. But I think Jamie was going to start working on that to see if we could find a more streamlined way of provide, or a just as easy way to be able to text the referrals as to email them.
Awesome. Thank you, Flo.
Yeah.
All right. Hang on, there's one. Okay, so Mike asked, is an email sent out to all individuals that have active access to RC Care? By that, I mean telling them of the office hours, date, and time. I don't know, Allison, do we send a notice of these series through the distro list?
We do not. It's a little tedious to send out a message to every single user within RC Care. So we try to hit some channels like our RAST leads, the recovery leads on Yammer, and the DAT channel, the DPX channel. I know that we also send a note to the DDEs to share down through those folks. So we're really trying to infiltrate as many as possible. But that is, and Jamie's release notes or weekly updates, we try to get those out too. So that's where we are.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. Michelle asked, maybe this was covered, but is there a way to make the resources site so you can click a box and it will automatically populate into an email?
Yes, I'm glad you did. We will have to integrate with Find Help to have that ability. So that project may be more than a year down the road. That's why we did this intermediate update. So at least you're not cutting and pasting each and every field. I hope you'll find it a little easier, but yes, that's my dream, to be able to just click that box and everything is in RC Care. We need something called a ATI or some sort of software interface to be totally integrated. And I think that would make everybody's life a lot easier. So the more important referrals get to be, and the more we build the resource directory, I think maybe we can get up there on that list and get it done sooner rather than later.
Awesome. Thank you, Flo. And Peggy from I'm going to assume this is Southeast Colorado. I might be off, but Peggy from the SECO region asked if client care program providing referrals is not a required class. How should we provide the training for new caseworkers? Refer them to this recording. Thank you. My apologies if that was answered. Flo, I think the answer to this is the knowledge articles.
Yes, because the knowledge articles replace the job tool. And then there's those 3 6-minute videos. There was not much. I thought what was hard about the old knowledge article was that it mixed IDC, recovery planning, and it didn't even mention shelter resident transition. So I think it made it a little confusing. And I hope that, you know, I'm available. We can do a RC Care walkthrough. We just didn't want to do it for the back to basics. So we could do that if, you know, if you need some people trained. Or you could do it actually in the sandbox too.
All right. Thank you, Flo. Marla asked, when will the meeting be posted in the exchange? Allison, do you know roughly a couple days?
Yeah, in a couple days. It takes some time to turn it into a link and make sure. So so tomorrow or at the latest maybe Monday. So
awesome. Thank you. Let's see, Richard from the Georgia region asked, are there new referral suggestions entered in the same, are new referral suggestions entered in the same manner as with Aunt Bertha?
Hi, Richard. Yes, Allison, will you go to slide 25, please? I anticipated that question, so I have a picture. Okay, so it's very little, but at the bottom of the page, I circled in red where it said, and I can't even read what it says. Suggest something. I think it says suggest program. So you would just click that button, and from there on, it's the same method. Unless you wanted to do a spreadsheet. But I actually recommend this method because they will give you feedback for every single program that you suggest. With the spreadsheet, but I don't think we get that feedback.
Okay, here's a comment in here, Flo. I don't know if we want to address this on this call or not, but somebody commented that there's an ability to text through the resource directory. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or if we want to talk through that or save that for another call.
Oh, yes, you can, but then it doesn't get, and that was an advantage before we had the new system. It doesn't get documented in RC Care. So when you're, there's 2 things you need to do with these links. You have to document them in RC Care and you have to send them to the client. So it does take care of the client, and client is number 1. So that's a good thing, but it doesn't document the referral in RC Care. So it does have a cool though method of giving you a one of those mini URLs. But like I say, you can fit 3 of the full URLs in SMS text, so it doesn't really need to be shrunken. So awesome. I hope that made sense.
It does. Thank you, Flo. All right, and then there's our last question in the queue is from Anonymous. What about our clients that do not have technology, smartphone or computer?
Well, how do they do casework? Do they go to the office? Oh, clients, I'm sorry, I misinterpreted. Okay, what about our clients that you're going to have to call them? That's why we have that option. Perfect. And you can, you have the option of printing out the referrals, but I don't think that's a good option because by the time, if you print it out and put a stamp on it and mail it, that's too long a time to go by. It's a disservice to the client. So one thing I've talked about with caseworkers is call them, give them your first 2 recommendations, the top 2, and then send them a follow-up letter in the mail with the details. So that's kind of a compromise.
Awesome, thank you, Flo. Yeah, and I suppose there's probably maybe like a public library in most places where folks could get on a computer or something if that was an option for them as well. So just a thought that I had, but
Yeah.
that's all we have for comments in the Q&A box. I think we've got a little bit more time. I don't know if anybody else has any additional questions. I'll keep an eye on that, but we're all caught up from this end. There was one other question that had come in asking if we could share how to get to the recordings for the sessions. So I did just publish that question along with a link that will take folks right into the office hours page. So Flo, Allison, we're caught up on this end. I don't know how we want to proceed.
Well, I thought we had decided that we would just end early.
We did. If there were no other questions, we would not hang on to, we'd let people have some time back. So I'm happy to wait another minute or 2. If you do have questions, please go ahead and post them. As we've covered a couple of times, the slides and the presentation will be posted on the Exchange, our Exchange page, the RC Care office hours page. And we'll do that in the next couple of days. So I think with that, Flo, if you'd had any other thoughts or anything else you wanted to share before we cut everybody loose?
I cannot think of anything else. That's why I was looking forward to the questions. But nope, I think I'm about talked out.
Fair.
I hope it wasn't too boring.
I didn't think it was. I thought it was great. And the questions were really good. So actually, since I'm off mic, Dan, I did see a question just pop in, and thanks, Marla, for putting one in here with your region. Again, if there's any others. So yes, yes, we will go ahead and address that, Marla. The slide deck again will be posted. Will be posted on the RC Care office hours page. So I guess it really wasn't a question, something we've already covered. All right. With that,
Thanks,
folks,
Marla.
we will go ahead and let you have some time back in your day. We really appreciate your time. Flo, any final words?
No. I think I said it all. And just get in touch with me if you have any questions, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them. Or the RC Care rollout. You can send them to RC Care rollout.
Yes.
I'm still using Aunt Bertha at redcross.org, but I guess it's not very consistent.
No.
Well, you'll always be Aunt Bertha to me, so for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, some people in my region call me Aunt Bertha. So yeah, I do kind of feel like it.
All right then.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.